Hi everyone, I am Giuseppe Fratoni. I am very excited to be joined today by Ian Cleary. Ian is the founder of ResoSocial.com, the world's leading source for independent advice on social media tools and technology. Ian's blog is the winner of the top 10 social media blog by Social Media Examiner for 2013 and 2014. Ian is also a regular speaker for the world's most important conferences on online marketing and social media, and the social media tools writer for Social Media Examiner. So Ian, welcome to the show and thank you very much for being here. I'm honored to have you.
I'm honored to be on the show. Thank you very much, Giuseppe, for inviting me.
My pleasure. Today, Ian and I are going to talk about the blueprint for building a successful business blog and the techniques and the tools that he uses to create amazing content and to engage with his audience. Ian has an amazing success story about blogging because he started ResoSocial.com and just 6 months later, it became an award-winning blog. So Ian, let's start with your background and your success story. First of all, why and how did you start ResoSocial.com?
Okay, interesting question. My background is mainly technology, working in software companies. But I left them companies, I started doing consultancy, and then I started doing social media training. And we started developing some products that just didn't work out related to social media. So I was unsure what to do next. I decided to create a blog and focus on the niche area of the social media tools and technology, because it was an area I had strong experience in technology and strong experience in social media. And I was really passionate about both areas. And I looked around all the key influential people, and there was, even though some of them were talking about tools, nobody focused on that area. So we thought if we had a blog really focused on that area, we might stand out in that market, in a crowded market.
Okay, cool. So you were able basically to put together your passions, your knowledge, and a need in the market, so to speak.
Exactly. There was definitely a gap there, and there's definitely a strong interest from my side. So if you're not passionate about an area, it's very hard to get up every single day and write content about an area you're not passionate about. So you do need to be passionate about the area.
So you really did everything right, the market research, the niche selection, and everything. And this is really a success story that probably should be in the ultimate guide to blogging.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, I had my fair share of failures beforehand where I didn't do all the research and I didn't pick my niche wisely. Like at one stage, I've done a lot of entrepreneurial things. Like I used to sell property in Eastern Europe, but it was an area where I was making money, but I wasn't passionate about it. So, this time when I was doing the blog, I said I was actually going to do the research, do all the homework up front, and it definitely paid off. But I mean, I've had plenty of times where I didn't do that.
And after you started Rezo Social, did you narrow your focus on your ideal reader after you started, or it was just right from the start?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I suppose we only done research the other day to see who we're attracting, but we looked at typically small businesses, digital marketing agencies, and we stayed away really from enterprise. So we don't cover too many enterprise tools because that is sort of a different market again. Now, I'm very tempted to do it and expand Razor Social and have an enterprise section, but it's very different in the small business, in what we say and how we deliver the content. So it was small business we sort of focused on initially.
Okay, great. Let's talk a bit about content creation. You always write great posts, very detailed and full of actionable information. And by the way, you are responsible for me signing up for at least 20 different sites and apps and tools and everything.
Great.
And what's your process to come up with blog posts ideas?
Okay, so well, first of all, because become known in the tool space, then a lot of tool providers email me on a regular basis. So I hear about a lot of new tools. And also in the comments of the blog posts, quite often people will come back and say, "Hey Ian, did you hear about this tool?" So people say, "Well, how do I hear about the tools?" Well, people tell me all the time about the tools. So that helps with content. I also read a lot of content. So I use Feedly, a tool where I bring all the blog posts together and read that content. So content will come up in that way. So, I might say, I might read a blog post about social media strategy, and that might make you think about, well, what about the strategy for the tools, picking the right tools? So I look at different variations of posts that are out there, maybe on different topics, and then look at how can I apply that with a tool and technology focus. So a lot of it's reading, interacting, speaking at conferences, all the questions people ask. I done a survey to our audience only yesterday, and one of there was an area there saying, what questions do you need answered? And I got lots of ideas from blog posts as well. So your audience can give you the blog posts as well. What are their problems? What are their issues?
Okay, cool. And is there a threshold, a number of followers that you need before you start to get an insightful feedback from your audience?
I suppose I mean, if you have a small group of people that really like what you're doing, then it's easier to get feedback from every one of them. And you might go, well, I'll actually talk to them and find out what their problems. So it doesn't matter the size of the audience, it's just how you get that results. As your audience grows bigger, you can't talk to everybody individually. So then it's easier to send out a survey. But I would say, even if you had like your first 50 people that you attract to your blog, why were they attracted? What is it that they liked about it that they signed up? And that's going to give you valuable information just there. So start even with a small size, and as your audience grows, keep on researching. I try to research every 3 months to send a list of questions. So like I said, your first 3 months of your blog, get your first 50 or 100 people subscribed and ask that audience, and get the feedback.
Is there any particular tool that you use for surveys?
There's plenty available. I mean, I used SurveyMonkey yesterday for doing the survey. I have, if you're on WordPress, you can use Gravity Forms and just create a form. If you don't want to pay anything, create a form and get feedback if you've got a small audience. If you've got a bigger audience, then SurveyMonkey will give you nice graphs and reports. So it's much easier to analyze the information.
Cool. And Ian, what types of posts work better in your experience?
Well, the first one, Giuseppe, you mentioned I do detailed posts.
Yeah.
I do that for a very valid reason. One is Google increasingly looks for longer posts. It wants detailed posts because if people are researching, they want to see the details and they want to see actionable information. So typically my posts are at least 1,000 words in length, because I just find that that's the threshold that works quite well. I mean, if you can write a really, really good post in 200 words that people want to share and people will link to, that's great. But I find it very difficult to write short posts and put a lot of value into it. So for me, when I'm doing the tools technology, the more I explain about the tools and how you can use it and what the functionality is, that gives people more detail. So that ends up generally at least 1,000 words. Now I have one post I'm posting on Wednesday that's 5,000 words. So now that's a long one, but it's on Google Webmaster Tools, the ultimate guide. It's very hard to rank on really competitive terms in Google. So with Google Webmaster Tools, if I want to appear on page 1 of search results, I'm going to have to put in a lot of work. So I decided to write a really long detailed post, and then I'll promote that post a lot. So the detailed posts do work. It's not a case of always doing a 5,000 word post, but writing one good detailed post, to me, it's better than writing 3 or 4 short posts that nobody links to, you don't get many shares or anything.
Okay, cool. And you also use a lot of images and a sort of how to approach showing the steps that people need to take in order to use a particular app or tool.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like general articles. I like to go, well, here's a tool, here's how you use it, here's some actions, and here's a screenshot that shows you what you need to do. And that also breaks up the content. So it's not all text. There's lots of images breaking up the content as well. And people generally like that as well. I mean, video content is good as well. I know you're starting the video content can be good. The break up your content as well.
Great. And you have a very consistent publishing schedule. And is it important, I mean, to get people used to the fact that you are publishing a new post, say, every Monday or every Friday?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's not that the audience is waiting every Monday for a post from me, but the consistency helps to know that you're always there, you're always regularly delivering content. And it helps you more than the audience because you know that you're consistently delivering that content. So I post on a Monday and a Wednesday, every Monday and Wednesday, and I send out a newsletter every Monday, Wednesday. So to me, I think it's really important to have that consistency. You may decide I'll post once a month, but always post once a month and never ever miss a month. And then if you find you're easily posting once a month, maybe then you do twice a month. But the worst thing is, like, you know, a gym membership, when after Christmas you join in January, you go 5 times the first week, 5 times the second week, and then you never go again. That's what you have to avoid. You know, you have to do regular content because it takes time to build an audience. So you need that consistency, you know, posting on a regular basis.
Now, this is a great analogy, really interesting. You know, I've been there in the.
Oh, we all have. We all have. Yeah, yeah.
And Ian, blogging is extremely time-consuming. And which tools do you use to optimize your workflow?
Okay, well, I strongly advise people to use an editorial calendar. So to plan out your content. So there's a couple of tools, WordPress tools. Editflow is a WordPress tool which helps you have a visual of your calendar of all your different blog posts, and then you can set various stages. So when I get a rough idea for a blog post, I'll put it into WordPress. In the stage, it'll say it's pitch, which just means it's a pitch for an idea. I don't know whether it'll be a blog post. Now, if I look at my queue of these type of ideas, I've maybe 150 in the queue. So when I'm starting to write, I'm picking off that queue. I'm not thinking, you know, what will I write today? There'll be something in that queue I'll write. And then I bring it all the way different stages from pitch to in progress when I'm writing. Then I assign it to an editor for a review, and then I'll do a final review, and then I'll put it live. But making that into a process definitely streamlines and helps. So have a process for collecting content, for creating your draft posts, and then for, you know, getting somebody maybe to edit your post before you publish. And that's really important. And then I've used various tools for distributing the content. For example, deliverit.dlvr.it would take my blog content and automatically distribute to some platforms like Facebook or Twitter. And so I can use some of them type of tools. One thing not to forget about as well, your blog content, if it's evergreen content, which means that it's not gone out of date or it hasn't gone out of date yet, why not republish some of that older content as well? Because most of your audience still hasn't seen your content. So, you know, I in my newsletters, I often pick an older post and say, if you haven't seen it, here's a good post. And I use a tool called Social Oomph, OOMPH. And that picks off older content off my blog and automatically sends it out, particularly to Twitter. So that sort of helps as well to make sure that I'm getting more value from the content I have.
Okay, and talking evergreen content, do you ever go back to your older posts to update them, to maybe insert some new things, new tools, or new ideas?
Yeah, I definitely do. I mean, for example, recently Google authorship, where Google was displaying your image within search results, that was removed. So there's about 6 different posts on my site that was affected by that. So I went back to the content and updated the content because I don't want that content to be out of date when people see it, because that content was still getting searches from Google. So Google was still sending people to that content. So it's important for me that it's up to date for people. So I definitely go back. But I will look at Google Analytics and see, is this content getting any traffic from Google? If it's getting lots of traffic from Google, then it's worth my while making sure it's up to date.
Okay. You mentioned Google. What's your approach to SEO, and which tools do you use to optimize your posts for Google?
Okay, so the key thing is listen to your audience to figure out what content they're looking for, because that'll probably give you the ideas of what they're actually searching for. So sometimes you don't have to be that smart about it. It's doing that. When you get some ideas from your audience, then you might use Google Keyword Planner, which sort of gives you an estimate of the amount of times people are searching based on those keywords. So I'll consider the keywords there, and then I'll write the post. I'll use a tool called WordPress SEO by Yoast to do some basic optimization of the post. And the other thing I'll do is Google is, if you want to rank on, physiotherapy services, I won't always put physiotherapy services all over the content, because Google is going to read that content and try to understand it and figure it out. Is this generally about the area of physiotherapy? So it's looking for related keywords, lots of related keywords. Now, if I'm writing detailed content, I'll naturally have related keywords in there, and that's going to help with ranking. So yeah, so it's Google Keyword Planner to do some research. Well, initially to find out what your audience is looking for, Google Keyword Planner to get some ideas for keywords, then write the content and do some basic optimization WordPress SEO, and then make sure you've got some related keywords within that. Now, after that, really it's about promoting your content because you want people to link to it. If people are not linking to the content, well, then it's generally not going to rank well within Google. If I write a post that's 5,000 words and it's a really detailed post, the chances of me getting lots more links are much higher. So, but promotion of the content is important.
And what are your promotion strategies? I mean, you mentioned a couple of tools to distribute your content, but there is an underlying strategy for promoting your content.
Well, I mean, as we're building our own audience, we generally have a good audience there to promote content to. If there's an important post, well, I will do some Facebook advertising to boost that post, so I might do that. I might reach out to relevant people that may link to the article. For example, a lot of people do weekly roundups where they do a weekly article. I might reach out to them and say, listen, this is we spent a lot of time on this article, and when they see that it's 5,000 words and it's very detailed, then they're more than happy to see that article. So if it's a valuable, useful article, then it's easier to do outreach. I use there's a couple of tools. One, I'm currently testing out Pitchbox, which is quite an expensive tool for a one-man business, but for a marketing agency, it's reasonable. That helps me identify websites to reach out to, and then helps me manage all the outreach process. So it'll actually show you who has responded, what did they say. It'll help you automate a lot of that process as well. And the thing about it is, once you reach out the first time, if people say, yeah, that's a really good article, I'll put it in my weekly roundup. You keep note of that. Next time when you have a really good article, you'll know that these guys included it before, so then it's going to get easier to find people to put it in next time.
Yeah.
So
it's cool. So everything starts with the relationships, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And it's reaching out in a nice, genuine way to people, saying, based on your audience, I thought you might be interested in this piece of content, and that people, are looking for good content. That's what they want to see,
Yeah, for sure. The ultimate goal of a business blog is to generate some kind of return for the blogger, and the first step is probably the building a list of subscribers.
Yeah.
And talking about list building, what strategies and tools do you recommend?
Okay, so I think, like you said, building your email subscriber list is extremely important. It's far more important to me than your Facebook fans and Twitter followers. I'm not saying Facebook fans and Twitter followers are not important, but ultimately you need to own your own list. So I use a plugin called Opt-in Monster for building email subscribers. So I use the pop-up, which sometimes is annoying for people, but it only appears, you could be on my site for half an hour and it won't appear. It will only appear when you try to exit the site. And that helps with conversion. I do a lot of testing with like different subscription boxes on my site. So where it says sign up for, email list, and we'll provide you a free guide. And I'll test different variations of that to see which works best. And the tool I use to test the variations is Optimizely. And Optimizely allows you to easily put in different text, different boxes, and see which converts the best. So there are the other ones. If I'm creating landing pages where I want to collect emails for a specific reason, like I do a guest post on your site, and visitors come back to my site, I want to send them to a specific landing page, and I use lead pages. That's leadpages.net for that.
And this
Lots of tools.
Yeah, and this is a great tip of sending people not to your home page, but to a landing page where you can grab their email basically and get them on your list.
Absolutely. That's right.
Ian, do you think that blogging is for every business? And in your opinion, is there a difference between a B2B and a B2C kind of business?
Well, I think it's very hard for businesses to not do well through their website anymore with just their normal brochureware content. I think you need to have content. So you need to deliver content in some format. And that could be white papers, or it could be frequently asked questions, or it could be information about helping your customers. But typically that's in the form of a blog, So Google wants content. The more content you have, the more opportunity you have to drive traffic to your site. So I don't see any business. I can't see why a business wouldn't have a blog, So I think it's for every business. And I don't see much difference in B2B, B2C. Now, if you B2C, you're selling, you have a shop selling very low priced items, goods, maybe you get away with not having a blog there, If it's a more complicated sale, then it's the requirement for a blog is it's much higher, because if you're selling something for a few $100s, people may not come to your site and buy immediately. So you need to go, well, how do you attract them? How do you maintain their details, and how you keep in contact with them? So, yeah, any business I'd start, I'd have a blog.
Yeah, I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
Listen, and just a final tip for my audience. What would be your best advice for someone who's considering starting a business blog to promote his business?
So the best advice is to focus on quality content, and that's what Google is looking for. So don't think you have to publish every day and you're publishing content for the sake of content. I'd much prefer if you publish one really high quality post once a month and promoted that a lot, rather than writing content every single day and not doing any promotion. So it's the quality content, because Google keep on putting in changes. They want to see people are reading your content, staying on your site, looking at other content on your site. If your content is really good, they will. If your content is low quality, they'll come to your site and leave. And then Google will go, that's not good quality content. So it's the quality content is extremely important.
So not content for the sake of content, but content that's useful and provides actionable information for your readers, basically.
Exactly. And detailed content just typically works better. So generally, that will be a long piece of content that will be helpful. Yeah.
Okay. Ian, the last question is, where can people discover more about you and your work?
Sure. Well, the best place is razorsocial.com, so that you can find me always there. And if you subscribe to my email list, I'll always respond to your emails. or Ian Cleary on Twitter at IANCLEARY.
Ian, thank you so much for sharing an incredible amount of valuable and actionable information with my audience today. And I think that a lot of people will be inspired to start blogging.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for having me on your show. I'm delighted to be on your show, Giuseppe. Thank you.
My pleasure, Ian. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye.